Michael, Yanni, for the organizers, those present here, and thank you for this very kind introduction. Sometimes you listen and you say, is this about me? But yes, it is true that we have a very long experience in the institutions. Although I must say, I always say I'm European, who happened to be born in the Netherlands, because I feel obviously European by heart and in mind. I'm very pleased to be in this fantastic city. I will come back to Pericles later because it always inspires me when I'm in Athens. As you know, many know, I come very often, as much as I can, to this part of Europe, which is indeed an important bridge to everything we discuss today, Southeast Europe, into the Baltic Sea, Turkey, and I'll come back to all these points. As policymakers, if we really want to protect and advocate the values we promote everywhere, we need new ideas. We need constantly to try new ways of working. So I was very happy to listen also yesterday to the interventions. I have a few takeaways also from this morning, very inspiring session, thank you, to take back to Brussels and to basically take to all our interlocutors. But I have to, and as you said, Michael, we will have to have a little bit more of the politics in this session. So the common foreign security policy, the common defense policy, which is all in the remit of my boss, High Representative Josep Borrell, the work we are doing on a daily basis in Brussels, and which is very much now, very much focused around the war on the continent. So I have a long version, and I have a short version. I will stick to the short version for the sake of time. But I will always be told afterwards, why didn't you mention this, and why didn't you mention this country, and what we did here, and what we did there. Forgive me for if I have left out, but I'm very open to the questions afterwards. Both versions, short and long, they have the same introduction. Brussels today, and many of our capitals, and I'm glad to be here also with the colleagues on the panel, it is all about our full continued support to Ukraine, one. Our continued isolation of Russia, two. This is about who's the aggressor, who's the aggressed. This is about upholding United Nations Charter, international law, stability on the continent, including the Western Balkans, the Black Sea region, Central Asia, whole Eurasia. And thirdly, it is all the global work that is needed to mitigate the impact of the war in terms of all the discussions we had, energy supplies, food supply chains, connectivity, I will come back to that, and generating a far better understanding of what is really happening and what we are trying to do. So it's a lot about foreign information manipulation and interference. It is really about protecting our democracies, our security, our citizens. And I would add also, of course, protecting that possible fatigue which comes in, how to keep the motivation and the energy going, the action at the highest levels, at political and at community, individual level. We are, after all, in Athens. Pericles, the first citizen of Athens. Freedom is the sure possession of those alone who have the courage to defend it. We need to have the courage to defend what we stand for. So, in being in the midst of this truly Russian aggression, illegal, unjustified, unprovoked war, it is right that we talk about convulsions, although convulsion is a medical term. We use it politically. But medically, you would say, if you would be a medical doctor, what do you do first? You make sure that the person who is affected, or the entity, or whatever it is safe. Safety and security is your first parameter when any unexpected attack, basically, happens. A safe environment, stabilizing the environment, and then looking at what kind of medication can be applied. And this is something we need to do together. Because in this area where in fact, our values, but in particular also the multilateral system, and I look at my colleagues who represent the United Nations, we are all United Nations after all, right? We are all United Nations. We are all the international system. We are all a rules-based system we need to defend. There, I think we need to be very, very strong together. And this is basically the work that is happening 24/7. Might does not make right. That's what my boss, the High Representative, said from day one. At the war, at the start of the war, unjust wars are doomed to be lost. Yet the ones who really, really lose out on all of this, it's people, it's citizens, it's their rights, it's human rights. I can tell you there's a lot of determination in Brussels and across the EU. It's mind-boggling. It's huge. The machine does not stop, 24/7. Basically, working as much as we can to face those geopolitical challenges you have been discussing here today. But it also shows that about the EU, there is a truth that perhaps we had lost sight of in all these decades after the Second World War. And the truth is that where people look for political and economic security and the freedom, that is what the EU is. That is what we enshrine. And that is what the Union was created for in the first place. And we saw this when Ukraine immediately applied for membership, immediately after the invasion, second day after. Done. I worked many years on our relationship with Ukraine, with Moldova, Georgia, with the Eastern partners. Membership was not on the table then. It was everything but membership. Now we are in a very, very different ballgame. We have 10 partners, 10 countries lined up to join the European Union. Because people ask to be part of the family. It's a request from people. It's a request from citizens. Talk to people in the Balkans. I mean, I spent so much time there. I see the representative here from Kosovo. You will say 94% of the people want to be part and member of the European Union. This is huge. These are requests we are getting. This is not imperialism. This is not occupying. The policy of enlargement is not the policy of occupying other countries. We actually have all these requests coming in we need to tailor for. And these are a lot of discussions we had previously on what enlargement really is, how it works. I will not go into it. We heard yesterday a session on enlargement. I'm very happy to go deeper in questions, but for now, I want to focus a little bit more on bringing together the different, the different discussions we had. And what are the two sides of all of this, particularly when it comes to the Black Sea region? Security is more challenging, but there are a lot of opportunities. And you listed them yesterday in the panels. And I think we have to somehow tailor on this better. What are the real opportunities? And here we have connectivity. The connectivity agenda of the EU, it's really the new imperative, diversifying energy, transport, we heard. All of this makes the Caucasus, the Black Sea, the whole region, a hub, a true hub for energy and connectivity between Europe and Asia. And this gives actually the Black Sea a totally new geostrategic angle. It's important for us also, I'm just repeating back to also what we need to absorb better in our own systems back in Brussels, but we need your help to do so. And if I then go back to CFSP and CSDP, these are regions that suffer from really long-standing protracted conflicts, Moldova, the 3 South Caucasus countries. And there we need a new impetus to seek the peaceful solutions, the opportunities provided by connectivity in particular, and I'll come back to that. Once the war is over in Ukraine, it will become, in one way or another, an integral part of this new regional landscape. Some talk about the new security architecture for Europe. We are working on that. There's a lot out there that is being done because it needs to be done. And here, we will need to lock the most part of the Black Sea in this embrace of countries who really wish to deeper integrate with the EU. And we are ready to do that. Only this week, we had the foreign ministers of the Eastern partners. In Brussels, we had a huge step ahead on enlargement with the candidate status for Bosnia-Herzegovina. Leaders, they will decide on it tomorrow, Wednesday, yeah, tomorrow officially. Fingers crossed always, but this will go well. I was very happy to see the president here yesterday. She was rightly happy too. It's a big step. Having enlargement inclusions is already a big step in our institutions and what we could do with the Western Balkans ahead, but also with the Eastern partners. And we have focused a lot recently on Central Asia, including the Black Sea. What do we do mostly, briefly, today? What do we need to tap into? It's the global gateway. Sunday evening was the first board meeting of the Global Gateway in Brussels with High Representative Borrell. It was chaired by the President of the Commission. Here we have 300 billion euro investment ready to be mobilized by 2027. I can throw many figures at you. I don't want to do that because it will be just what are we doing in the digital sector, Trans-Balkan electricity corridor, energy sector. A lot was mentioned yesterday, but it's huge what's out there. Transport corridors, and we mentioned it between North Macedonia, Bulgarian border, the ambassador may say something. It's huge, also in the health, in education. When it comes to Balkans and southeastern neighborhood, we have together with the institutions, we have mobilized to date 14 billion from the 77 billion out there in total investments between now and 2027. It means that we are actually not just deepening the work, but we're having far more resources ready to work right up front. And we do that with the private sector. Now I also want to make the link to this morning because it was a very important session. Global Gateway, as I said, we talk about 300 billion, right, to leverage. The money, the point is, where does the money really reach the people who need it most? We know all of that. This is very important. But it's also very important to make sure that in the work we do with the private sector, and it's relatively easy for the European Union to work with the private sector. We are used to doing that. We discussed it a bit yesterday. But what is not yet, what has not yet dribbled down is that we are people-focused interventions, actions, and that we need to work across the institutions with all respect, yes, on gender, but we already work much broader on gender and diversity, because the diversity agenda is very big for the European Union too. It all goes together. But it is very important to have it on the top of everybody's agenda, and not at the very end of every action plan and every agenda. It should be number one. People-focused, based on creating the opportunities for gender and diversity, number one. I have, and then I will stop, a few takeaways from the sessions. First, we need to double up our work. Western Balkans, Turkey, Black Sea, Central Asia. We have the money, the tools, and the instruments, but we don't have enough of the networks of people. And I think I want to link it back to what Ms. Eleni Mariano said yesterday. What we need much more in the institutions is the informality. And I bring forward the informality. It came up a few times, because very often we sit in very stiff institutional setups, and there's not enough discussion, not enough exchange. And here I want to link it to the last meeting we had in Prague, the first and the so far last, but there will be many more, of the European political community. 44 leaders came to Prague to discuss informally. And everybody was saying, but what is this EPC? Is it a new organization? No, it is in fact a real occasion for leaders to meet informally. And it did lever, at that point, it was Armenia, Azerbaijan, some of you who have actually followed it, that gave this opportunity to work further. I mean, it's very challenging. The whole question around Armenia, Azerbaijan, I will not go to in here. It keeps us very, very busy. But it is important that leaders meet informally as much as they can. And that's why after the first Prague EPC meeting, there will be the next one in Chisinau, and then there will be a next one organized by Spain, and then by the United Kingdom, and perhaps further. But this is one, the informality of the work and all the channels, keeping constantly all the channels open. Second, and this is also mentioned yesterday by Ms. Eleni, it is the deeper work with the maritime regions. And I say this because there is one region that does not have as yet the full attention, and we try to work from it from within a lot on, is the East Med region, Eastern Mediterranean region. And I linked this to the intervention by Ambassador Burak Özergerin when he made this reference to Greece, Italy, and later on it was big in the press afterwards. But what I'm trying to say is the Eastern Mediterranean regional approach. If you take the coastal partners, we are all fully aware of the problems. We've been working on this quite intensely in institutions for some time. But let's look further than there is Egypt, Cyprus, Greece, Israel, for sure. There's also Turkey, Lebanon, the Palestinian Authority, you know, and this is a huge basin with huge potential. And somehow all the interests are not being brought together. Now, everybody will say, yeah, but the politics hampers this. It's impossible. You know, I never say that it's impossible in our work. Today we saw the Lebanon-Israel agreement on maritime borderlines. Thank you for the United States for Amos being very, very consistent on this. And that is important, the consistency, and still trying to advance where we do see the opportunity for people to come together and link up. So I believe this is what the European Union is all about, the linkages, the action, the energy in it, and defending what we stand for. Thank you very much.